want to share a couple of verses. I shared them last week, but I want to share them again because they're still good news, and they are also well connected with today's message. Isaiah chapter 33, verses 5, 6, and 7. The Lord is exalted, for he dwells on high. He will fill Zion with justice and righteousness. He will be the sure foundation for your times, a rich store of salvation and wisdom and knowledge. The fear, the respect and awe of the Lord is the key to this treasure. In a world that seems to be constantly changing and we have no idea from one day to the next what's going to happen, the Lord will be your sure foundation. So this morning we're into the second part of our teaching series that we're calling Big Faith. Now, I'll be honest with you. Big Faith seemed like a really good title to launch to begin with. And the more I thought about it, the more intimidating that sounds. I don't want it to be intimidating because I want you to remember that Jesus said, big faith can be the size of a mustard seed. And mustard seeds are very, very, very small. So big faith isn't, we're not talking about big faith in the sense of a huge size of faith, but we're talking about a faith that believes, well, that Jesus exists, that he is who he is, that he says he is. Big faith is trust Jesus, wholly love his gentle power and his wise plan. I just want to remind you that God's power is exhibited in ways that are very unlike ours, our world. We when we think of power, we think of talking, telling people what to do and how to do it and when to do it. God's power is exhibited in Jesus. The perfect example of Jesus, of God's power, is shown in Jesus when he kneels to wash his disciples' feet. His power was shown when he died on the cross. His power was shown when he rose from the dead. His power is displayed even now because he prays for us. So big faith, trust in Jesus' holy love, his gentle power, and his wise plan. We believe that he not only knows what's best, but he can work out what's best. That's what big faith is all about. Big faith unlocks the life that we're created to enjoy. Big faith believes Jesus, essentially believes who Jesus is, that he is who he says he is, and that he's going to do everything he's ever promised that he's going to do. Big faith summarized by this verse from Hebrews chapter 11, verse 6. Without faith, it is impossible to please God, because anyone who comes to him must believe that he exists and that he rewards those who earnestly seek him. I want you to think about that word impossible. Without faith, it is impossible to please God. There's no middle ground. There's no grading on a curve. There's no grade levels of grades. It's pass or fail. It's credit or no credit. It's either you are or you aren't. Either you believe or you don't believe. It is impossible to please God without faith. We either trust God and please him, or we distrust God and do whatever we please. Now, why is faith such a major concern for Jesus? Why Jesus talked about faith a lot, and it's a major theme throughout the Bible. Why would he do that? He talks about faith because the root of every problem we face right now, every problem we face right now, the root of it goes back to the beginning of humanity. Jesus created us to live in a loving relationship with him. But here is a basic rule of all relationships. Every loving relationship stands strong on trust. Think about it. It's very difficult to have a loving relationship with someone you don't trust. You can have a scared to death relationship with them. You can have a, I'll do whatever you say because you're pointing a gun at me or carrying a bigger stick than I've got kind of relationship with them, but that's not a loving relationship. And that's not what we were created to enjoy with Jesus. Jesus created us to experience and to enjoy a loving relationship with him. And that loving relationship, whether it's with another human being or with Jesus, they're all based on trust. But trust was devastated and essentially destroyed in the Garden of Eden. Humans left relationships that the Lord intended for us to enjoy and to experience, and we became distrustful, unloving rebels. Jesus has been working to restore trust in us and through us ever since. His deepest desire is to win us back, to bring us home to a loving relationship with him. You can study the Bible alone, or you can watch preachers. Believe me, I've been watching what people say, and I've watched a few other preachers as well. You can watch preachers in all shapes and sizes. There are big ones and small ones. There are short ones and tall ones. There's white ones. There's black ones. There's Hispanic pastors and preachers. There are people from Africa. There are all kinds of preachers available. All kinds of Bible teachers available. They're men and they're women. They're young and they're old. But if you listen closely to what you study in the Bible, and if you listen closely to what pastors and preachers are saying, and what Jesus is saying through the Bible and through those who are, if you listen closely, nearly all the time, nearly every single message, every single Bible passage, Jesus is saying to us simply this: trust me. Come on, you can trust me. Now, the Holy Spirit uses 5 things to grow big faith. 5 things: practical teaching, providential relationships, private disciplines, personal ministry, and pivotal circumstances. Those 5 things are universal and timeless. These are things that God is always, they're teaching, practical teaching, providential relationships, private disciplines, personal ministry, and pivotal circumstances. I'm indebted to Andy Stanley for those well done alliteration, all of them starting together with the word P, and he did a great job putting that together. Each message in our series on big faith from this point on is going to center on one of those ways that the Spirit builds big faith. The focus of this morning's message, of this message, is practical teaching. In case you're not sure what I mean, is that is teaching that you can put into practice. It's teaching that you can do. It's not just a theory. It's not just an idea, but it is teaching that you can actually take out and put into practice at any other time, in any day of the week. Jesus emphasized the importance of practical teaching often. He often talked to people and then said, what are you going to do about it, essentially? One good example of that is our text for today. It's found at the end of the Sermon on the Plain. That's reported by Luke in Luke chapter 6. Jesus filled this Sermon on the Plain with specific directions for how to live in God's kingdom family. And so that's what we're going to look at today. I'll invite you to focus your attention on Luke chapter 6, verses 46 to 49. I'll be reading from the New English Translation. This is his conclusion, the conclusion to his sermon. Jesus asked, "Why do you call me Lord, Lord, and don't do what I tell you? Everyone who comes to me," Jesus says, "everyone who comes to me and listens to my words and puts them into practice, I will tell you, I will show you what he is like. He is like a man building a house who dug down deep and laid the foundation on bedrock. When a flood came, the river burst against that house and could not shake it, but it could not shake it because it had been well built. But the person who hears and does not put my words into practice is like a man who built a house on the ground without a foundation. When the river burst against that house, it collapsed immediately and was utterly destroyed." So Jesus' conclusion to his sermon, short, sweet, and it has several contrasts and comparisons in it. There's two house builders, two guys who build a house, houses. Each one of them builds a house. There's two house builders. They're doing the same thing. They're building a house. They have two methods. One goes through the hard work of digging down deep to bedrock. And the other one does extraordinarily little work. He just builds without digging. There's only one foundation. At first I was going to say there were two foundations, but frankly, there's only one foundation. There's the foundation of the man who dug down deep and found the bedrock, and he built his foundation on the bedrock. The other guy built a house without a foundation.